guys. I know that people are going to be streaming in still, but I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping and then we're going to get into it. Our meetup in Dallas is the 18th. Our meetup to the Kentucky Derby with Merrill Hodge is May 4th. Then we go to see Bay FC and hang out with Brandy Chastain on July 6th. If you have not subscribed to Outlier magazine yet, please do. When you find out who's on the cover, your jaw is going to hit the table. And next Tuesday, April 2nd, we have Lisa Perlow joining us. She's the vice chairman of Royal Caribbean Group, and she's the former CEO of Celebrity Cruises. And her new book, Making Waves, just came out. She's a total badass. So make sure you tune in on Tuesday for Lisa Perlow. But man, I am so excited. Oh, let me say this because there might be some people that have never been on these calls before. Our format is a little bit different from what most people are used to. I'm going to do about a 30-minute fireside chat with Guy, and then we're going to open it up for live Q&A. If you have a question, just put in the chat that you have a question, and we will tee you up with Guy, and you can ask your question directly to Guy. So that's our format. So I said this on LinkedIn. I said, if you don't know who Guy Kawasaki is, ask the 3 million people that follow him on LinkedIn, and they'll tell you. But I met Guy through a mutual friend, Kara Golden, who said to me, would you mind if I introduced you to Guy Kawasaki? And I was like, that might be the dumbest question anyone has ever asked me. The answer is, how quickly can you do it? And then in talking to Guy, we found out that we have mutual friends in Brett Hedigan, who you guys know through the Outlier Project, and Brandy Chastain, and others. So pretty cool. I will give you a very quick introduction to Guy. So he just wrote his 16th book, Think Remarkable. He's the chief evangelist for Canva. He was the chief evangelist in 2 stints at Apple, worked at Mercedes-Benz. He's a founder and investor. I'd say, Guy, tell me if this is accurate. You're a fledgling surfer.
Well, to the extent that anybody at 69 can be fledgling anything, yes.
And anyway, just an absolute legend. So I'm excited to get into it with Guy. Before we do, Kathy, get us started. Guy, what do you think? Good, decent introduction?
I'm gonna take you on the road with me, except I do everything virtually. So I should have had
I'll
screen
go on the road
capture
with
on.
you anytime. I'm so excited for this conversation. And we're going to kind of touch a lot of different bases, but I definitely want to focus a little bit on the book because I think the book itself is remarkable. And I think anyone that's written 16 books is amazing. This,
Yeah.
and I think I might have told you this the last time we spoke. I don't know. I love this book. So everybody should buy Think Remarkable, but Wise Guy is a very, very good book.
Oh,
Um,
you know what? When Wiley bought the rights for Think Remarkable, they also bought the rights from Penguin for Wise Guy, and they want me to revise Wise Guy. So, uh, believe it or not, there may be a title coming called Wiser Guy.
okay. All right. I mean, I'm okay with the title change, but you can't like try to put lipstick on Mona Lisa. It's already pretty damn good.
Um,
Let's
how many people are listening right now?
well eventually 700
Wow.
but right now we probably I don't know have 75 100 something like that.
Because I can tell you that I have a bunch of wise guys. I can send them to people if you buy Think Remarkable, but I don't want to make that often to 7,000 people.
You're the best.
So yes,
um
I'll do that. Like
let's
the hell, right? So listen, if you buy Think Remarkable, and this is purely the honor system because it's not like I'm going to ask you for a receipt. But if you buy Think Remarkable, just send me an email and I'll send you a copy of Wise Guy. And hopefully this is mostly US because it'd be a shame to spend $200 sending that book to Croatia or something.
we do have members in 34 countries, but I think you're pretty safe. If I look at the crew, we got
Yeah.
a couple Canada, but yeah, you're in good shape.
All right.
um
My email
I
is Guy Kawasaki at Gmail. So buy Think Remarkable and then I'll send you Wise Guy.
I mean, we're starting off on a good foot here. You're already getting free stuff. I mean, not
Yeah.
only do you get to spend an hour with Guy Kawasaki, you just got a free book. Um, in in Think Remarkable, you start by talking about, I think, one of the most iconic marketing campaigns
Yeah.
ever, which is Think Different, which for an organization like the Outlier Project, I mean, that might as well be our theme song.
Right.
Um, Tell us a little bit about why you chose to start the book talking about that campaign uh,
Yeah,
during
sure.
your days at Apple.
So when you open up a book, uh, you need to capture people's attention in the first 30 seconds, right? I mean, this is just basic marketing. So you got to think like you're an F-16 on an aircraft carrier deck, not a 787 at SFO with 2 miles of runway. So I needed a story that only I could tell that dropped names and just built credibility and just sucked you into the book. And this is, I think, obviously, I think this story is the story. So I'll give you the gist of the story. So this is 1997. Apple's supposed to die. Steve is on his way back. And at that time, you truly had to think different to use a Macintosh because if you were thinking the same, you would be using Windows. So Apple ran a campaign featuring Pablo Picasso and let's see, Amelia Earhart, Richard Branson, Albert Einstein, and basically the gist is that if you're an innovator, if you're a visionary, if you think different, you use a Macintosh. If you're thinking the same, then you're just the great unwashed masses. So anyway, so at the unveiling of this to the Apple employee marketing team, there's 10 of us in the room, and Steve was there also. And so Lee Clow from Chiat shows us the reel, and we just loved it because it truly captivated the sort of the spirit and the thinking of Apple and Apple employees. Oh, you see, you have a really great producer there. So Lee Clow shows this campaign, and at the end he says, "Steve, I have two copies of the videotape. I'll give you one. I'll give Guy one." And Steve says to him, "Don't give Guy one. Just give me both copies." And so at that moment, I had to speak up. I said, "Steve, what's the matter? Don't you trust me?" And Steve, as only Steve would say, he said, "Yes, Guy, I don't trust you." So now, as I look back, this is one of those man or mouse moments, right? You're going to look back for the rest of your life and say, why did I wimp out? Why was such a candy ass? Why did I back down to that guy, right? So this is one of those pivotal moments in your life that you don't want to regret. So I said to him in real time, without even thinking, I said, "That's okay, Steve. I don't trust you either." So I figured that cost me about 10 million in options, but it was worth it.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. That it is a great way to start the book. So
But
you,
but you know
oh,
what?
go ahead.
I mean, people may be wondering, so guy, that's a great story. What the hell does that have to do with thinking remarkable, right? And so I had to go through some gyrations about that myself. Don't get me wrong, but I think that back then it was enough to think different, to be away from the crowd. But today, in today's challenges, which is I think an order of magnitude more complex and more difficult, it's not enough to think different. You have to think remarkable. So I'm upping the
Yep,
game.
I love it. So you broke the book down into three parts, and I
Yes.
will say you're the master of alliteration. Uh, growth, grit, and grace.
Yep.
So those are the three sections of the book. Talk to us a little bit about kind of what do those three things mean in terms of thinking remarkable.
Okay, so first of First of all, whoa, what was that? So first of all, I want to get due credit for coming up with that alliteration, because not only is it alliteration, it is also a tricolon. And not only is it a tricolon alliteration, it is a two-letter alliteration. It's not just all G, it's all GR. Okay, not even Malcolm Gladwell could have done that. So anyway, so growth, grit, and grace. Growth is my, sort of my homage to Carol Dweck and the growth mindset. That a growth mindset means you can take on new things, you can take on new challenges, you can be different, you can change your life. That life is a blank palette, and you can just, is it a blank palette or blank canvas? You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah, we did.
you can do more art. A fixed mindset means that no, I'm set. I can do this. I cannot do that. I cannot learn stuff I don't know already. So all the remarkable people that we interviewed for the podcast, which is the basis for the book, Remarkable People Podcast, they all had a growth mindset. So that's number one. Number two is grit. So even if you have a growth mindset and you realize you can grow, you will grow, it's possible. It's not going to be easy. So you need to have grit. And this is an homage to Angela Duckworth, the mother of grit. And then the final section is that if you have growth and grit, it's not guaranteed, but you probably will be successful. And at that point, what do you do? And at that point, it's about grace and graciousness. And it is about repaying society for the fortune that you have had. I mean, I don't mean just money. I mean, whatever you have achieved. You may think it's all because of you and your growth and your grit, but you would be wrong. It's luck. It's some elementary school teacher. It's a coach. It's a mentor. It's a boss. It ain't just you. So when you have achieved success, you have what I call a success oblige. And the success oblige is that you help other people be successful too. So that's growth, grit, and grace. And now you don't need to buy the book. And I don't need to send you wise guy, because I just explained the whole thing.
One of the cool things about it is the forward. So I am a huge relationship guy, and I grew up poor. So every time I wind up in these great situations where I'm like, I need to pinch myself because I'm like, I'm talking to Guy Kawasaki, or I'm in a room with, at a soccer game with Brandy or something like that. And I'm like, how the hell did I get here? I love to reverse engineer it and say, like, how did I wind up in this spot? Like, this is
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah.
And so Jane Goodall, like an all-time, like one of the most iconic people on the planet, she writes the forward. He's friends with Jane Goodall. She's been on his podcast, I think, twice. Um, Tell us that circuitous path
Okay.
that took you to a friendship with Jane Goodall.
You may be even more impressed that I went to her birthday party this week, but I digress.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, seriously.
um, so in a commencement address in 2005, Steve Jobs, made the statement that you can only connect the dots looking backwards, and I truly do believe that. So this is going to be kind of a long story, but it is a story that is one of the most, I think, powerful examples of defaulting to yes, helping people, connecting the dots, and being thankful for people in your life. So it starts in Kalihi Valley. Kalihi Valley is a lower middle income place in Honolulu, Hawaii. It's let's just say it's not exactly Beverly Hills, or it's not exactly Rodeo Drive. It's not, it's a dangerous kind of dubious area. Anyway, so that's where I grew up. And I was in a public school, elementary school, and my elementary school teacher told my parents that she thought I had too much potential to continue in the public school system of Hawaii and to get me out into a private school so that I could go to college. And thank you, God, my parents listened to her. Thank you, God, my parents made the sacrifice. So I went to this private school. Now, with hindsight, I have no idea why I did it, but I applied to Stanford. And with hindsight, I have no idea how I got in because I know I wouldn't get in today. So I got into Stanford. So now this boy from Kalihi Valley gets into Stanford. And along the way, when I was in high school, somebody gave me a ride. A family friend gave me a ride in his Porsche 911. And, a lot of people talk about how in their youth, they discovered their meaning in life. They wanted to end climate change, or they wanted to ensure fresh water, or they wanted to end poverty. They wanted to change the world. Well, honestly, I didn't want to change the world. I just wanted to change the car. And I rode in that 911 and I said, oh my God, I mean, this is why you need to study, guy. This is why you need to work hard because, you gotta get a car like this. So anyway, I loved cars. I go to Stanford and I meet this guy. His name is Mike Boych. Now, he loves cars also. The difference between me and him is that he loves cars and his family has them. So I become good friends with him. I once went to his house for a Thanksgiving, I think, and his father picks us up in a Rolls Royce, and my freaking head is exploding because, I haven't been in a whole lot of Rolls Royces in my life. And then we go to dinner, and his mother asked me to drive her home. And she says, okay, so, you drive my car, and it's a Ferrari Daytona. So now, I'm set for life. Okay, I'm fully motivated. I don't need to read any self-help books anymore. I just want to get a car. I want to get a car. Okay, so now I become good friends with Mike Boych. And years later, he hired me into the Macintosh division as the second software evangelist for Apple. So the history of evangelism is first there was Jesus, and then there was Mike Boych, and then there was Guy Kawasaki. That's like 2,000 years in a sentence. So now I'm an evangelist for Macintosh, and I was successful in that. I became rather visible in Apple. And then 10 years after that, I get an email from somebody and it says, you don't know who I am. I'm a Macintosh user, but I know who you are because I'm a Macintosh user and I followed your work. And I'm the director of TEDx Palo Alto. And Jane Goodall has accepted an invitation to speak at TEDx Palo Alto. And I need someone to be on stage to interview her. And I would like you to interview her. So just like you said, you had this out-of-body experience with Brandy Chastain and Brett Hedican and all your outliers. I had an out-of-body experience. Like, holy shit, I get to interview Jane Goodall. Like, pinch me. Like, is there candid camera here? Is this like bullshit or is this for real? So of course I say yes. I cancel another speaking event and I interview Jane Goodall and we became very good friends. I don't know why. I mean, sometimes you just hit it off with someone, right? And I guarantee you that 99% of people that Jane Goodall meets, they're all like idolizing her, right? So I'm just in that 99%, but somehow I guess my idolization was a little different. But anyway, we became friends and fast forward a few more years and I decide I need to start a podcast because I have access to people like Jane Goodall. I have a moral obligation to, get this information and inspiration from people like her and get it out to the rest of the world. So if you think about it, who could be the best first guest for a podcast about remarkable people? Why? The most remarkable person alive, Jane Goodall, right? So I get Jane Goodall, holy shit. And then I gotta tell you something. Once you get Jane Goodall as your first guest, getting other guests is easy because as a frequent guest myself, the first thing I ask a podcaster as well, who else have you had? And if they say, oh, Brandy Chastain, Brett Hedican, Malcolm Gladwell, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Angela Duckworth, you in your mind, you're saying, I guess he's for real. I should probably get on his podcast and be in the same group with all those people. So when you have Jane Goodall as the first one, the second one is, Margaret Atwood. The third one is Stephen Wolfram. I mean, after that, you can get anybody you want, maybe except Michelle Obama. But anyway, so I get everybody. And okay, so now I have this podcast. I'm friends with her. Fast forward a few more years, and I write this book. And Jane Goodall, you should understand something about Jane Goodall. She's on the road 300 days a year, 300 freaking days a year. Okay. And when Jane Goodall is on the road, I've seen her lifestyle on the road. Like when I go on the road, I get into a city, the limo picks me up, I go to the hotel, I sleep, I wake up, I make a speech, I eat lunch, I get back in the limo, I go to and I leave. Jane Goodall, from the time the sun rises till midnight, she's out there shucking and jiving and meeting with kids and organizations and fundraisers and et cetera, et cetera. I only need to have one good hour in a city. Jane Goodall is on, every hour in that city. So anyway, I reach out to her. She has a person, her communications bodyguard, and I reach out to them. I say, "Can you write me a foreword for this book?" And I figured, she's too busy, and we're good friends, but good friends understand when good friends say no. So I didn't think it was gonna happen, but the guard dog tells me, she's so busy right now. She's in Africa or something. I said, okay, and then the next day I get a email from her. Oh yeah, I'll do it. Fine, no problem. I love to do it. God, holy shit! So now I get this forward, and now I got to fast forward a little more again, and you probably regretting you asked this question, but
No, I love it. I
so
love this
now
stuff.
I'm chief evangelist of Canva, and Canva has this education marketing, 60 million registered education professionals, and they're creating a course called How to Be Remarkable. And we want to feature videos of people in this series by Canva, which you guys should check out, because if you don't want to read the book, you take the online course from Canva, which is free. And so once again, I asked the bulldog, the guard dog, and Jane, and he says, now she's really busy. She's in Tanzania all week, and there's not even good connection there. But of course, Jane next day says, yeah, I'll do it. And we get her online with Zoom, and let's just say that they don't exactly have AT&T fiber in Tanzania, so it just cannot record, right? So he say, Jane, you don't need me. You just record me 60 to 90 seconds talking about what you want to be remembered for and your greatest accomplishment, so that I can tell people that, this is how to be remarkable. You got to be remembered for something great. And here's Jane Goodall explaining herself. So I get an email the next day that says, I'm in Tanzania, and I have 24 hours free, so I can really record for you, except that in the hut next to my hut, they're drilling for water, so it's too noisy, so I cannot record. My head is exploding. Jane Goodall is in Tanzania trying to record a video for me, but the hut is too noisy because the hut next door, they're drilling for fresh water. I mean, you cannot make this shit up. Anyway, finally, I guess she goes to another hotel or something and she records it. And so that's a long answer to how I got Jane Goodall to write a foreword and how to be a video for the Canva course. And it seriously, it all starts with a 6th grade teacher in Kalihi Valley, Honolulu, Hawaii, named Trudy Akau. If she had not told my parents to put me into another school, I would not be on this podcast right now. I would be a barista at Starbucks or something. I would not be on this podcast. And so I think the lesson is that you know, when you write a book called Think Remarkable, you have to use examples that people recognize, such as Jane Goodall and Steve Jobs. But I don't want people to get the impression that only Steve Jobs and Jane Goodall are remarkable people. A remarkable person I define as a person who has made a difference and made the world better. And that can be for one person or one classroom or one team or cleaned up one lake or one stream. And in my mind, that sixth grade teacher, she was remarkable. She changed my life. And this is a message to you and all the teachers out there. Um, you just never know, you know, how you're going to change one person's life and the ripple effect it's going to have in the world. And if there's a profession that I admire the most, it's teachers. I think teachers are just angels living on this earth. I mean, they are so responsible for the goodness of this earth. And that, you know, in a moment, a brief moment of anger by Guy Kawasaki, I do not understand why we treat teachers so shitty, because they are responsible for the development of our most important resource, our kids. And like, why does someone who runs a hedge fund make $1 billion and a teacher makes $75,000? God must be laughing at the stupidity of us to do something like that. But I digress.
Yeah, stay on that soapbox, my friend. You're such a damn good storyteller. No wonder everyone taps you on the shoulder to be their evangelist. So, Guy, you've interviewed hundreds of remarkable people, and they
Yes.
come in all shades and colors and sizes and
Yes.
professions. And you just, the circles you run in are different than the average bear. You've developed pattern recognition over the years to define like what is the common denominator for all of those people who are remarkable, because this is a community, it's very similar. Our goal is to live an extraordinary life, and we all may have different definitions of what an extraordinary life means, but we all want to make sure that we are living an extraordinary life. So through your pattern recognition, what have you found to
Yeah.
be the common denominators?
Well, this is a duhism, but the common denominators is that these remarkable people, they exhibit growth, grit, and grace. It is that simple. And I want to be clear that um, I don't consider myself a self-help guru and a visionary. And, you know, this is not a self-help book. My premise is, if you want to be remarkable, you make a difference. If you make a difference, you make the world a better place. People will have no choice but to consider you remarkable. But you don't wake up in the morning thinking, how can I be remarkable? You wake up in the morning thinking, how can I make this world a better place? And if you do that, being remarkable will be a side benefit. But, you know, Steve Jobs never woke up in the morning and said, well, you know, how can I be remarkable? What should I do? Maybe I'll invent a personal computer. I mean, do you think Jane Goodall woke up in Africa saying, how can I get people to think I'm remarkable from Oxford? Maybe I'll go hang out with the chimpanzees and see if they have a social life and use tools to get ants. I mean, you know, she was trying to make a difference, not be remarkable. So I am not a self-help guru. I'm telling you right now, there will never, ever be the, you know, how to be remarkable seminar at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay for $5,000. You get to spend 2 days with Guy Kawasaki and you're going to be remarkable. And then, you know, in the general session, everybody comes and then you stand up on the stage and I stand up and I say, listen, look to the person on your left and tell that person you're remarkable. Look to the person to the right. You're remarkable. Now everybody stand up and raise your hands because you're going to be remarkable. You know, that ain't me. That ain't me. I ain't do it. I just freaking read the book or take the free course. I don't care. I'm not trying to get your $5,000, and I'm not going to charge you $1 million for 24/7 access to my wisdom. All my wisdom is in a book for 28 bucks. 17 if you get the Kindle version. So that's the comment. Now, one more thing I want to address about you said that I run in different circles and stuff. I mean, obviously, if you interview 200 remarkable people, somehow you have access to them. But I want to correct that. I do not run in different circles. You mean, and I'll tell you the story that so truly indicates the circles I run in. So at the back of this book, in in gratitude to about 60 places where I wrote this book, because I write in coffee shops. I listed every coffee shop and every restaurant I ever wrote this book in. Literally. I should have sold sponsorships. But anyway, now, and I'm going to tell you a story that for many of you may reduce my credibility, because I'm sure you want to hear about how I have this great writing, routine and all that. But I'll tell you something. The place where I wrote the most this book is Olive Garden. I swear to God, it's Olive Garden. And I'm telling you right now, I freaking love Olive Garden. I love
You're there
all.
for you're there for the breadsticks, unlimited breadsticks.
Listen, unlimited breadsticks, unlimited salad, unlimited soup, unlimited Arnold Palmer. You never need a reservation. There's lots of parking wherever Olive Gardens are. They're gonna spread my ashes in this Olive Garden when I die, so that I can always be around unlimited breadsticks and salad. I love their salad. So I'm telling you about my love for Olive Garden, not because I'm an Olive Garden brand ambassador, though surely I could be. It's because I'm not that. I'm not that kind of guy. I mean, yeah, I can drop names. I can say I went to Jane Goodall's birthday party because I know you'd be impressed by that. But I'm not a billionaire, and I'm not like, I'm not paying some college consultant 400 grand to Photoshop my kid's picture into the tennis team so that he can go to USC. I mean, I would die before my kids go to USC. But anyway, so I'm just telling you
Spoken
that I
like a
love,
UCLA grad,
yeah, well,
Stanford.
listen, I can explain that too. I can explain that too. Listen, I am so old that I got into Stanford because being Japanese American back then, I was I was kind of an affirmative action baby, right? Now, if you're Japanese American, it's the opposite, right? You're like, the Asians have to score 800 on the SATs and have 4.2 GPAs. But back then, you could be a dumbass and get in because I'm Japanese. I'm an oppressed minority, bro. You put my people in internment camps in World War II. You freaking owe me. You owe me, Stanford, to put me in. But that's how old I am.
Hysterical. I got one more question for you, and then we have a ton of people that want to ask you
Isn't this
questions.
how all of these sessions go?
All of them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly the same. Uh, you may know Avram Miller from Intel Capital back in the day. Avram was like anyway, big deal back in the day, but he's knows Steve Jobs, the young Steve Jobs and the
Yeah.
young Bill Gates. So anyway, when we had Avram on, which was actually another Kara Golden introduction, um, he told us some hysterical stories about Bill Gates. Needless to say, he's not a fan. I have a question for you. Uh, Steve Jobs, oftentimes it's like, visionary or villain, love him, hate him. Like, what is your general take? What was your general take? You know that you knew the guy, you
Okay.
worked with him twice.
Man, you love to ask questions that take a long answer. I mean, can't you can't you just ask me, where's your favorite place to get salad and breadsticks? That's easy. Olive
That
Garden.
would have been easy.
Yeah, yeah.
OG.
And, well, I tell you that I don't know that guy from Intel. I mean, he obviously doesn't eat at Olive Garden because I would have bumped into him there. But anyway, so listen, every story, every movie, every book you've read about Steve Jobs has an element of truth to it. And you know, there are not so many people who write about good people. They write about like the assholes, right? Like everybody wants to know about asshole Elon Musk and asshole Steve Jobs. And to tell you the truth, he was an asshole, but he was a visionary asshole. And so I have become, because I've been in Silicon Valley for 40 years, I'm an expert in assholes. And I don't mean in the proctological sense. I mean in the sense of personality. So I'm an expert in assholes. So I have figured out that there are two kinds of assholes. This is really important distinction. So one kind of asshole is an egocentric. It's all about me, myself, and I. I'm the visionary. I invented electric cars and tunnels and solar panels. I'm taking us to Mars. I'm going to put chip in your head. I'm going to turn around Twitter. That's one kind of asshole. It's all about me. The other kind of asshole is a mission-driven asshole, which is I'm going to make the best computer. I'm going to make you creative. I'm going to make you productive, and nothing is going to get in my way. And if you're mediocre, I'm going to run you out of my company. That's the Steve Jobs asshole. So I think that Steve Jobs was a mission-driven asshole. And I'm not saying that it's preferable that you be an asshole, but I'm telling you, a mission-driven asshole can be extremely effective. So
If you have to pick your assholes, that's the asshole
Yes,
to
true.
pick.
That's true. Not all
Right.
assholes are created equal. We're going deep into assholeology here. So, but anyway, so Steve Jobs was an asshole, but you know what? I truly admire him. I would not be where I am were it not for him. I consider it an honor to have worked for him. I don't know anybody who worked for him that thinks, oh, I wish I had never worked for him. I have come to believe that as you look back on your life, the people who are the hardest on you, whether it's a teacher or a coach or a boss, the ones that were the hardest on you teach you the most. And Steve Jobs was one scary mother. I mean, I lived in fear that he would humiliate me publicly. Now, that's contrary to every HR theory, positive psychology, meet with your employees, discuss the mutually desirable goals, focus on the positive, all that stuff. Steve did none of that. He did none of that. Now, having said all that, you're probably thinking, okay, so Guy, I got it. So now, for now, I'm going to be a mission-driven asshole. Well, let me offer you one contrasting data point, which is I would say that Melanie Perkins, the CEO of Canva, is the complete and utter opposite. And she is just a totally lovely person who is accomplishing things that will be of the magnitude of Steve Jobs. Canva is democratizing design and changing the world of design and communication. And she's none of what I just described of Steve Jobs. So the problem with people like Steve Jobs and the way that the movies and the books play him up is that most people have a very difficult time separating causation from correlation, right? So you read all the books and the movies, you think, okay, so let's get the Steve Jobs checklist, right? You wear 501 jeans, New Balance jogging shoes, even though you cannot run. You wear black mock turtleneck. You buy a Mercedes or a Porsche, it has to be black. And you don't license it because you think the license plate makes the car look ugly. So you just keep the car for the limit that you can keep it without registration, which is 6 months, and you turn over and you get another one. And you drive your car in the carpool lane by yourself and you park in a handicap slot, right? And say, okay, so that's what Steve Jobs did. That's what I'm going to do. Well, guess what? If you do all those things, you're not going to be the next Steve Jobs. You're just going to be an asshole in a black mock turtleneck and 501 jeans with New Balance shoes, driving a Porsche in the carpool lane, parking in the handicap slot. You're just going to be an asshole. And, at an extreme, one of those people is now in jail, right? So it's all about the mission. And yes, you can accomplish that as an asshole, but you can also accomplish that by being a lovely person. So the key variable is not asshole or not. The key variable is mission driven or not.
Yep. Well, you are a lovely person and an incredible communicator. We have so many people that want to ask questions. Guys, keep your questions as brief and concise as possible. We're going to try to get as many in as we can. Guy, you ready?
I'm ready, but one more thing. I got to violate all HIPAA things, right? So,
Yeah, do it.
or not, I am deaf. You may not have figured that out yet, but I am deaf. And I hear with a cochlear implant. And a cochlear implant takes you from being deaf to lousy. It doesn't take you from deaf to good. So there may be cases where some people, because of the just the pitch of their voice, I cannot really hear them. So you may have to repeat the question for me because of this, fundamental flaw in my head. Okay.
Zero worries. We got you. We got you. Sunny in Arizona, you're up.
All right. Thanks so much, Guy. With so many people and companies embracing innovation and disruption, you've had the opportunity to either collaborate with or invest in so many of them. Kathy listed them out in the chat earlier. I'm curious, what company or even concept first comes to mind when I ask what excites you or intrigues you the most right now?
So you have a very good voice for me.
Thank you.
There's some people I cannot understand, and you I can. So but you're asking not what I have invested in or I'm already in the game, but like if this is like a blank slate, right? I can pick any company,
Yeah, absolutely. Just whatever excites or intrigues you.
Well, I don't know about the specific company, but I have to say that I think AI is the biggest deal that I have ever seen in my career. I think AI is a bigger deal than personal computers, social media, internet combined. It is just a game changer. And I use AI to write this book. I use AI almost every day. And every time I use AI, I ask myself, how did you ever do this before, Guy? I mean, I sort of asked myself that question when I first saw Macintosh because I'm coming from that generation that used IBM Selectric typewriters. And if you were extremely lucky, you had an IBM Selectric typewriter with the lift-off correctable ball as opposed to the white liquid, what are the stuff you painted on. Um, and I think AI is just, I think, listen, I'm going to go off the rails here for a little bit, as opposed to my usual calm demeanor, serious answers. But I think AI may be the thing that may save mankind. I really do believe that. I would make the case that we have two more shots at saving mankind. So basically, the male species has blown it for 2,000 years. So I think the next thing we do is we let females run the world, right? I think women should run the world, literally. I think every CEO, every president should be a female. Now, if they can't do it, then I think AI is the last resort. And so now, as an investment thesis, I don't know who to invest in. I mean, it's not like I can just call up Sam Altman and say, hey, Sam, can I write you a check and be an open AI investor? And AI may shake out where it's the big boys like Google and Microsoft and Apple who dominate AI. So those companies you can invest in, but that's not a direct play in AI. I mean, the thought of Apple doing AI, I can't get Siri to freaking even wake up and tell me the temperature. And now I'm going to tell Apple, let's just say Apple's record in speech recognition and AI is a little checkered at this point. But although Apple made the Apple III and Newton, and look where they are today. So anyway, AI I think AI is the game changer.
Awesome. Thanks.
Donnie in Texas, you're up.
What's up, Guy? Man, you've done an amazing job building your personal brand. And in this day and age, having a strong personal brand is one of the coolest things you can do. What is the best thing we should be thinking about or doing to really build a solid personal brand in this day and age?
Oh, man, you might not like my answer, bro, but here goes. So this guy is not going to buy my book. I can tell you that right now before I even answer. That's one less wise guy I have to ship. I will say that
I'll buy your book either way.
I'm going to give you a very honest and tough love answer, which is just like I don't think your goal should be to be remarkable, but it should be to make a difference. I don't think you should be worried about building your personal brand. You should just be doing good shit, right? So if your goal is doing good shit, you make a great computer, you make a great website that democratizes design, you write a good book, just do good shit and everything else follows. So, when people go off on this thing about, oh, I'm going to I'm going to create my personal brand. And then, you know, they hire a PR firm or they hire an executive coach, and, you know, then they're ghostwriting white papers, and they're trying to get on TEDx stages, and they're trying to all do this because they are, in many cases, putting lipstick on a pig. So the key is to not be a pig. And so just do good shit and everything else follows. I can tell you that I don't wake up in the morning thinking, how can I build a Guy Kawasaki personal brand? I just think, how can I write the best book? How can I make the best podcast? Now, there are moments when I say, you know, Guy, you shouldn't do that because that's not good for your personal brand. And, you know, so like listen, lots of people have seen me in airports and airplanes, and I can tell you, no one is ever going to tell you. I saw Guy Kawasaki, and he just ripped that United Airlines steward or stewardess or flight attendant because, you know, because they didn't bring his Diet Coke fast enough. You're never going to hear a story like that. That's the kind of thing. I think you can ruin a personal brand, but I think the way you build the personal brand is you simply do good shit. So, you know, and coming back to Olive Garden, I'm telling you, I'm one of the best tippers at Olive Garden because I never want some Olive Garden waiter or waitress to say, Guy Kawasaki was in here. I heard about him because of my school. And man, he is a tight ass. He only left 10%. That will never be said about me.
Dude, that you could have just said do good shit and I'd have been happy, but we're no longer friends because of Olive Garden because it sucks. So other than that, I love you, brother. Appreciate it.
Oh man, we're having fun. Brian in Connecticut, you're up.
So this is I'm the perfect guy to follow up from the Olive Garden. So thinking back, this is a little bit more tactical, but thinking back to some of your Apple days, what are some strategies that you would recommend to evangelize your client base from a service-oriented business?
Oh, okay. So I'll give you the complete and utter insight into evangelism. And it's called Guy's Golden Touch. Now, you might think, oh, Guy's Golden Touch must be, Guy thinks that whatever he touches turns to gold. That is not what I'm saying. Guy's Golden Touch is whatever is gold, Guy touches. And that is a very important concept. And what I'm trying to tell you is that the key to evangelism and the key to marketing and sales is that you evangelize, sell, or market good shit. Because it is really easy to evangelize good shit, and it is really hard to evangelize shit. So stay away from the shit. And, you know, this sounds like a duhism, like, oh, duh, Guy, thank you very much for telling me that, because until you told me that, I was going to evangelize shit. But now you told me good shit. This seminar was worth it just for that line, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is that evangelism comes from the Greek word meaning bringing the good news. And so the fundamental quality of great evangelism is you have to have good news. Now, it might not be good news for everybody, but it's got to be good news for your target market. And that's the key. So, I mean, in a sense, we keep coming back to this concept like, do good shit. If you do good shit, it's easy to be an evangelist for it. I'm a product-centered marketer. I mean, I think that it's all about good stuff. If you do good stuff, everything else falls into place.
Thanks, Guy.
There you go. You got your answer. Sal, you're up.
Hey, Guy, how you doing? Apologies for taking the call in the car. Just came from watching the speech you did 10 years ago at UCLA. The speech was great, but what I loved was how you handled the two professors that asked questions right off the bat that talked way too long. Can you talk about, as somebody who wants to have success oblige, how in a room like this you shut people up and sniff out what kind of asshole they are?
How to shut people up when their question goes too long? Is that what he asked?
Well, more like, how do you discern who to work with? What is your asshole sniffing test?
How do you figure out whether someone's an asshole?
Uh, have you heard of a upper GI? So this is the upper guy, right? I mean, first you take barium enema and then you go see guy. Um, I I don't know. I listen. There are not that many assholes in the world, truly. I mean, I maybe that we think there are more than they are because the ones who are assholes often are publicized, and it's a deep philosophical question. When you see people who are assholes who are successful or rich, you have to ask yourself, were they assholes so that enabled them to do remarkable things? Or did they do remarkable things so the world tolerates their assholeness? I have thought about that for 40 years. I don't have a conclusion yet. But listen, I don't know. It's not like I have a checklist. I don't give them the Myers-Briggs test. I mean, I don't know. It's after 40 or 50 years, you get some kind of pattern recognition. I don't know. I never thought about it. I have a really low tolerance for bullshit, and I think it's because at 69, 2/3 of my life is gone. I don't have a lot of time for bullshit at this point. I have really low bullshit tolerance, and luckily I'm at a stage in life where I don't have to take anybody's shit anymore, and because of just good fortune, it's not like I have to suck up to have financial resources. Knock on wood. So I just have a low tolerance for bullshit. I listen, when I was 25, I had a very high tolerance for bullshit because it was necessary. But at this point, I don't give a shit anymore. You don't like it, don't bother. What can I say, right?
Oh my God. So much fun. Lindsay Dowd in Boston.
Guy, this is so much fun. I am honestly having the best time. So, my
Women tell me that all the time.
well, if you were reading the threads, I mean, the amount of times the people have used the word shit, it's so funny, and it's all been inspired by you. So, thank you for that. But my big impact is I'm trying to transform leadership as we know it. So I'm curious, who made the biggest impact on you as a leader with all the amazing people you've worked with?
Okay. This is an easy question to answer. I will tell you that the person who impressed me most as a leader is a guy named Stanley McChrystal. Stanley McChrystal ran the ran that, not the US, ran all the Western forces in Afghanistan. And he wrote a book called Risk. And if you want to read about leadership, I highly recommend that book. I would say that book, his book Risk, is in the same category in my mind as the books of Peter Drucker. And now many of you are not old enough to know who Peter Drucker was, but Peter Drucker was the very first sort of management guru, right? He wrote Effective Executive. He wrote the book called Management. And Stanley McChrystal talks about risk and as a leader, how you reduce risk. And he gives very tactical examples, not just military examples, but many, many good examples. He gives like a 11-point checklist of 11 things you can do. And I'll give you one example. So, he's all about testing the system. So he's simulating drills. He's like getting a quote red team, and he tells the red team to attack this company to see how the red team can do against all its security. So he has all these techniques to like stress test a company before the stress actually occurs. And I truly, I think that was the best management book I have read since Peter Drucker. And when an author tells you to read somebody else's book instead of his own, there's no higher form of flattery than that. So read Stanley McChrystal's book called Risk.
And which leader had the biggest impact that you worked with?
You mean impact on the world?
No, on you, just
Oh,
personally.
on me,
Like,
on
who
me.
inspired you?
It's hard to top Jane Goodall in that category. I mean,
Yeah, I'd go with
uh,
that.
yeah, she's, when I grow up, I hope I'm like her. I mean, she's just remarkable. At this birthday party, you could tell that she was just so tired. I mean, it was, and yet she has a really wicked sense of humor. She's a really wicked sense of, they were talking about, so I'll tell you a little Jane Goodall story, and I need to go pretty soon because I don't know why, but I have 4 of these lined up. You're the first one, so you're getting me all fresh, and I got a 4 like back to back. I mean, I
I
can't
blame
even pee.
Madison.
I can't even pee between them. But anyway, so Jane Goodall at this birthday party, Dave Matthews plays, okay, and and she's talking with Dave Matthews, all going well. They do a little auction and stuff, and they auction off this item, and the MC says, yeah, Jane Goodall will sign this if you bid on it and win and personalize it for you. And Jane Goodall says, well, it depends on how big the bid is. And I thought that was such a great answer. And one of the things that I learned over the course of my life is that a sense of humor, that is the ability to laugh when something is funny, or the sense of humor that is the ability to make other people laugh, is a really great indication of intelligence.
Mm.
Smart people are funny, and smart people understand humor. That is a very good test of intelligence.
Well,
So
you're pretty smart. You made us laugh.
I hope so.
We've been laughing this whole time. Can we sneak one more in?
Well, yeah. I mean, what's the next group gonna do? Like fire me? I mean,
Yeah, right. Well, I don't want you to, have an accident or something like that. If you
no,
need a pee
no.
break.
No, I just have to go from one Zoom channel to the next.
John, Professor Westman, you're our cleanup hitter.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. Totally inspired. Well, would you agree, Guy, that you spend your time and resources on what you care about most?
Well, I do agree with that. The problem is that there's an anticipated answer to that question, which is if you looked at how I spend most of my time, I mean, my waking hours, the single biggest thing is probably surfing. So, so if you were looking for this thoughtful, intellectual, inspiring thing about how I I'm just grit, and I'm working on editing my podcast and writing my book hours per day, perfecting it. But honestly, if you looked at it, I spend 2 or 3 hours every day surfing. So that's everybody needs goals, and my goal is to be, if you know surfing, my goal is to be able to cross step and hang 10 on the nose of a surfboard. And that is one of the hardest things to do in surfing. And I got to tell you, I've been surfing 10 years, and it takes me on my board, it will take 4 steps to get to the nose. And right now I can go 2 steps. So I figure I can get 1 step every 5 years. So I have 10 more years to get to the nose. So I have 10 more years. I'm 69 now. I'm going to be 80 when I can hang 10. And then the way I intend to go is I'm going to hang 10, and I'm going to just have a stroke, and I'm going to die on that time hanging 10, and then I'm going to recover the body, and that's it. That's it. That's how I want to go.
So I love that answer, and good luck. And after surfing, what's the next most time you spend on?
Then the next most time is
Look at this guy.
podcasting. Yeah. So this has been so fun, and I hope you got your shit quotient in today.
Guy, you're tremendous. Everybody buy the book, leave a review on Amazon. Wish Guy a happy 70th birthday on I think it's August
Easter.
30th.
All right,
Guy, man, you're the best. I appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing.
Thank you. I wish I hadn't, or whoever, I wish this wasn't scheduled back to back. I would love to spend more time with you. I can tell you that.
I blame Madison. I
Yeah.
blame
Okay. I'll
gotta be
speak
her.
to her.
But yeah, thank you, Guy.
All right, take
this was
care.
absolutely
You know,
tremendous.
it's better to leave you wanting more than for you to stop dropping off.
Yeah, you're the best. I appreciate it, man.
See you at Olive Garden.
See you at Olive Garden. All right. Take care, my man. Oh my God.
Amazing.